where the past is not just remembered, but brought back to life with depth and clarity. In Greek Ornan 70, geese surrounded a fortified camp. Inside, thousands of Persian soldiers defeated, defenseless, waiting. What happened next wasn't a battle. The fighting was over. This was something else entirely. History classes teach you about the 300 Spartans at Thermopylae, the heroic last stand, the noble sacrifice. They don't teach you what came 11 months later when 10,000 Spartans returned with the largest Greek army ever assembled. They don't explain what vengeance meant in the ancient world. They don't describe what happens when an entire civilization decides that mercy is no longer an option. By the time the sun set on the plains of Plataea, the bodies would be counted not in hundreds, but in tens of thousands. And the survivors, all 3,000 of them from an army that had numbered over 100,000, would carry home a message that would echo across the Persian Empire. This is the story of how ancient Greece answered Thermopylae, and why even the victors would struggle with what they had done. August 480 BC. The narrow pass at Thermopylae. King Leonidas lies dead, his body mutilated on Xerxes' orders, beheaded, crucified, displayed as a warning. Around him, 300 Spartan warriors, 700 Thespians, 400 Theans, all dead. The Persians hadn't just killed them, they'd made examples. Xerxes orders the Greek corpses stripped, left to rot in the summer heat. For 3 days his army marches past the decomposing bodies. A lesson, a demonstration. This is what happens when you resist the King of Kings. But Thermopylae was never meant to be a victory. It was a transaction, lives traded for time. And as Persian forces sweep south into Greece, the question becomes, what will that time purchase? September 480 BC. Mardonius, Xerxes' most trusted general, leads the Persian army through central Greece. City by city, the advance continues. Thespi burned to the ground. Every building, every temple, the population fled, but their homes are turned to ash and rubble. Plataea, the same treatment, systematic destruction, not just conquest, erasure. Then Athens. The Persians enter an evacuated city. The civilian population fled weeks earlier to Salamis and the Peloponnese. What remains are empty streets, abandoned homes, and the temples on the Acropolis. The Persians torch everything. The Parthenon, ancient even then, burns. The temple of Athena Polis, housing sacred relics dating back centuries, is destroyed. The fires burn for days. When they finally die, Athens exists only as a scorched memory on a hilltop. This wasn't just warfare. This was systematic cultural destruction. The Persians were erasing Greece from the earth. But then Salamis, in the narrow straits between the mainland and the island, the Greek navy springs its trap. The Persian fleet, massive and confident, finds itself unable to maneuver in confined waters. Greek triremes ram, board, and sink, ship after ship. By sunset, Persian naval supremacy is shattered. Xerxes watches from a golden throne on the shore as his invasion plans dissolve in fire and cider. Within days he makes his decision. Retreat to Persia with half the army. Let Mardonius finish this with the remainder. The message is clear. This war should already be over. Finish it. 480 to 479 BC. The winter months, Mardonius pulls his army back to Thessalon and Macedonia. Northern Greece already under Persian control. His force still numbers over 100,000. Persian infantry, cavalry, and crucially Greek allies, Thebes, Thessaly, Macedonia, cities and regions that have chosen to submit rather than resist. In Sparta, the winter passes differently. Pausanias, nephew of the dead Leonidas, is named regent. He's young, untested in major command, but carrying the weight of his uncle's death. Around him, the Spartan assembly debates. Some argue for caution, others for immediate action. But there's a third option, never spoken aloud in the assembly halls, yet present in every discussion. What kind of victory are we preparing for? Because by spring it's clear that this war has become something more than survival. The Greeks have held. They've won at Salamis. Now they have a choice about what comes next. Spring 479 BC, Mardonius tries diplomacy first. He sends Alexander I of Macedon, a Greek technically, though one who submitted to Persian authority, to Athens with an offer. The terms are generous, almost too generous. Complete reconstruction of Athens. Persian goal to rebuild every temple, every home, territorial expansion. additional land, favorable trade status, autonomy within the Persian Empire, self-governance. As long as Athens acknowledges Persian supremacy, all they have to do is abandon the Greek alliance. The Athenian assembly gathers in their temporary refuge on Salamis. They're living in tents and requisitioned homes, their city a ruin across the water. Everything they owned is ash. The Persian offer would solve every immediate problem they face. They refuse. The Spartan ambassadors present at the meeting report back that the Athenians didn't just decline, they threatened to execute anyone who suggested accepting. One council member who spoke in favor of the offer was stoned to death by the crowd. His wife and children killed by Athenian women who dragged them from their home. The message is sent to Mardonius. There will be no negotiation. Mardonius responds with action. His army returns to Athens, still abandoned, still empty. What the first burning left partially standing, this second wave of destruction finishes. Buildings that survived the first flames are systematically demolished. Wells are filled with rubble. Agricultural land is salted. This burning is different. It's not conquest. It's punishment. When the Persians withdraw again, Athens exists only as scattered stone and ash. 2 complete destructions in less than a year. Mardonius pulls back to Boeotia, to the plains near Plataea. He chooses the ground carefully. The Asopus River provides water and a defensive line. Behind him, Thebes, allied to Persia, offers a secure base. Most importantly, the flat plains favor his cavalry, the Persian army's greatest advantage. He constructs a fortified camp, wooden walls, defensive positions, supply stockpiles. Then he waits. The challenge is implicit. If you want to end this, come to ground that favors us. The Athenians send urgent messages to Sparta. Either march now or Athens will have no choice but to accept Persian terms. For weeks, Sparta hesitates. The Isthmus of Corinth is fortified. The Peloponnese is defensible. Why risk everything in open battle? But then Porsenius makes his move. He mobilizes not just Sparta's army, but the full military might of the Peloponnesian League. 5,000 Spartan hoplites, the full levy, every able-bodied Spartan citizen. 5,000 perioi, free inhabitants of Spartan-controlled territory. 35,000 helots armed as light infantry. An unprecedented number of these semi-enslaved laborers mobilized for combat. The Spartans march north, picking up allies at every city. Corinth, Megara, Sicon, Epidaurus, Troezen. The Athenians join from Salamis. 8,000 hoplites, their entire remaining military force. By the time the combined Greek army reaches the hills above the Persian camp, it numbers nearly 110,000 men. This is the largest Greek army ever assembled in recorded history. The Greeks take position on the slopes of Mount Cithaeron, overlooking the plain where Mardonius waits. For anyone who understands ancient warfare, the tactical situation is immediately clear. The Greeks hold high ground. Their hoplite phalanx, interlocking shields, long spears, is devastating in frontal combat, but requires solid footing. The slopes give them that, plus the advantage of charging downhill. The Persians control the plain. Their cavalry can maneuver freely on flat ground. Their archers can rain down volleys. But advancing uphill into a hoplite formation would be suicide. Neither side can attack without surrendering their advantage. So they wait. Day 3 of the standoff. Persian cavalry probing Greek positions gets too close. A unit of Athenian hoplites supported by archers engages them in the foothills. The fighting is chaotic. Cavalry wheeling, hoplites bracing, arrows flying. Then an Athenian arrow strikes the horse of Mestius, commander of the Persian cavalry. The animal collapses. Mestius, in ornate golden armor, tries to fight on foot. The Athenians swarm him. Persian cavalry attempts a rescue, but the Athenians have already dragged Mestius into their formation. They strip his armor piece by piece, stabbing him repeatedly through the gaps until he stops moving. When the Persian cavalry finally retreats, the Athenians have a trophy: the golden armor of Mardonius's cavalry commander and his body. They parade Mestius's corpse through the Greek lines on a cart. Every soldier files past to see it. Morale surges. On the Persian side, the wailing can be heard across the plain. The entire cavalry mourns. Heads shaved, horses' mans cut, armor removed in grief. Mestius wasn't just a commander. He was Mardonius's friend, his most trusted officer. The psychological balance shifts. Days pass, skirmishing continues, but no major engagement. Then Mardonius makes his move. Persian cavalry locate the Gargafian spring. the Greeks' primary water source fed by an underground stream on the slopes. Under cover of darkness, Persian horsemen reach the spring and systematically destroy it. They fill it with dirt, rubble, and corpses, both animals and human. They divert the flow, poison what remains. By morning, 110,000 Greek soldiers have no water. The Greek commanders gather: Pausanias, the Athenian general Aristides, the Corinthian commanders. They face an impossible situation: stay and die of thirst in days, retreat to new water sources, and risk being caught in the open by Persian cavalry attack across unfavorable ground, and be slaughtered by arrows and horsemen. Irenaeus orders a complex nighttime maneuver. The center of the Greek line will fall back to a new position near Plataea, where other springs provide water. The left wing, Athenians and allies, will retreat to different high ground. The right wing, Spartans and Tagians, will hold position until the others are clear, then withdraw. This should be a coordinated, controlled repositioning. Instead, it becomes chaos. The allied contingents in the center panic. Nighttime retreats are nearly impossible to control. Even in ideal circumstances, units lose formation, commanders lose contact with their men. Some groups retreat too far, others stop in the wrong positions. By dawn, the Greek army is scattered across several miles, units separated, the unified battle line broken. From his camp, Mardonius watches the dawn reveal Greek positions. What he sees: Greeks in retreat, formation broken, scattered across the plain. What he doesn't see: that the Spartans on the right wing have deliberately maintained formation, that the Athenians have reformed on their new position, that this isn't a rout, it's a badly executed maneuver. It doesn't matter. This is the opportunity he's waited for. Mardonius orders a general advance. The Persian army moves out of the fortified camp in waves. First, elite Persian infantry. The immortals, lightly armored but highly trained, equipped with short spears, swords, and wicker shields. Behind them, infantry from across the empire: Medices, Bactrians, Indians, Sak. On the flanks, what remains of the cavalry still formidable despite the loss of Mistius. At the rear, Greek allied forces from Thebes and other cities that sided with Persia. Mardonius himself rides near the front, visible in his distinctive armor, urging his men forward. The target, the Spartan right wing, still in apparent retreat, seemingly vulnerable. Pausanias watches the Persian advance. His 10,000 Spartans and Tians have been slowly withdrawing, maintaining formation, but appearing to flee. Now he gives the order: stop. The Spartans halt, dress their lines, and turn to face the approaching Persians. The bronze-faced phalanx locks into position, 8 ranks deep, shields overlapping, spears protruding in rows. But there's a problem. The Greek religious protocols require favorable omens before battle. The seers reading sacrificed animal entrails report unfavorable signs. Again and again, Pausanias orders new sacrifices. Again and again, the omens say, do not advance. The Persians close to within arrow range. Persian archers, thousands of them, begin loosing volleys. Arrows rain down on the Spartan formation. Men fall, struck through gaps in armor, through exposed flesh. The shields provide some protection, but arrows come at angles, find weaknesses. Spartans dice standing in formation, forbidden by their religious law to advance, unable to retreat without breaking. Pausanias orders more sacrifices. The omens remain unfavorable. More Spartans fall. Finally, whether the omens change or Pausanias simply decides to act, the order comes: advance. The Spartan phalanx doesn't run, it marches. Each man maintains position, shield locked with his neighbor's, moving as a single armored mass. The Persians, still loosing arrows, prepare to meet the charge. They plant their wicker shields in the ground, creating a defensive wall, bracing their short spears. The phalanx hits this line like a bronze wave. The initial impact is devastating. Spartan spears, 8 feet long, designed for stabbing downward, punch through wicker shields, through the lighter Persian armor. The weight of 8 ranks of men pushing forward collapses the Persian front line. But the Persians don't break immediately. What follows is close-quarters combat of a type most Greeks had never experienced. The Persians grab the Spartan spears, trying to break them, pull them aside. They fight with swords and daggers, trying to get inside the spear's reach. Some actually grab the spear points, pulling them bare-handed, their hands shredded, but creating openings for comrades. For a time, minutes that feel like hours, the outcome is uncertain. The Persians are less heavily armed, but they're fighting with desperation, and they outnumber the Spartans. Mardonius fights at the front. Sources describe him mounted on a white horse, surrounded by 1,000 elite Persian guards, the best warriors in the army. The fighting around him is concentrated, vicious. The Persian guards die one by one, pulled down by Spartan spears, but they exact a cost. Spartans fall too. Then, in the chaos, Mardonius goes down. Different sources give different accounts. A stone thrown from the Spartan lines, striking his head. A spear thrust that reaches him through his guards, simply being overwhelmed when his horse is killed. What's certain is that Mardonius, commander of the entire Persian force, dies in the melee. The effect is immediate. Word spreads through the Persian ranks. Mardonius is dead. The commander, the king's chosen representative, the architect of the invasion, gone. The Persians center Begai. NS to waver, then breaks. Once a phalanx breaks an enemy line, what follows is less a battle than a pursuit. The Persians run. Some head for the fortified camp. Others scatter across the plain, seeking any escape route. The Greek light infantry and cavalry held back during the initial clash now surge forward. This is where the real killing begins. Heavily armored hoplites are relatively slow, but helots, peltasts, cavalry, they can run down fleeing men. They can catch them in the open, exhausted, separated from formations. The plain of Plataea becomes a killing field. Meanwhile, on the Greek left, the Athenians engage the Thean forces fighting for Persia. This combat is more evenly matched. Greeks fighting Greeks. Similar equipment and training. The Theans hold longer, fight harder, but eventually they too retreat when news of the Sens collapse reaches them. Thousands of Persians reach the fortified camp and take refuge behind its wooden walls. Inside supplies, treasure, Mardonius's personal wealth, and the army's non-competents, servants, camp followers, families of some officers. The camp is defensible. The walls are sturdy. If the Persians can hold it, they might regroup, mount a defense by time for reinforcements. But the Greek army surrounds it for a time. The Persians hold the walls. Greek forces, primarily Spartans and Peloponnesians, attempt to breach the gates and are repulsed. The Spartans, sons, trained for open field combat, struggle with siege warfare. Then the Athenians arrive. The Athenians, more experienced with varied warfare, find a weakness in the fortified camp's defenses. They coordinate a concentrated assault on one section of the wooden wall. The wall comes down. Greek forces pour through the breach. What happens next is documented in multiple Greek sources written decades later. The details are consistent, though the tone varies depending on the author. Inside the camp, the organized Persian defense collapses almost immediately. The remaining soldiers, already demoralized by the battle, trapped, exhausted, cannot mount coordinated resistance against the Greek army now flooding through the breached walls. The Greek forces move through the camp systematically. They don't take prisoners. Every Persian soldier found is killed. Sources describe Greeks moving through tents, through supply areas, through every section of the fortified space. Resistance, where it occurs, is brief. The non-combatants, servants, camp followers, the families, they fare no better. Ancient warfare had conventions about such things. Armies sometimes spared civilians, took them as slaves, used them for ransom. This wasn't that. Herodotus, writing about this event, doesn't dwell on details. He states the outcome of the Persian army at Plataea, numbering over 100,000. Approximately 3,000 survive. 3,000. The rest 100,000 men are dead by nightfall. Modern historians debate these figures. Ancient sources often exaggerated army sizes. Maybe the Persian force was smaller, 80,000, 60,000. But even conservative estimates put the dead at tens of thousands. And the Greek casualties, Herodotus reports 159 total Greek dead. Later sources say perhaps low thousands. The disparity is staggering, even accounting for ancient exaggeration. This wasn't a battle that went back and forth. This was systematic slaughter, beginning when the Persian line broke and continuing until virtually no one remained to kill. After the killing stops, the Greeks conduct inventory of the Persian camp. The treasure is immense: gold and silver bullion, payment for the army's wages, personal wealth of Persian nobles who campaigned with Mardonius, plundered goods from Athens, Plataea, Thespi, and other sacked cities, luxury items, jewelry, precious textiles, artworks, Porcinius order. Everything collected and catalogued. 10% is set aside for the gods to be dedicated at Delphi, Olympia, and other sacred sites. The rest is divided among the Greek cities according to their contribution to the army. The Spartans receive the largest share. The Helots, the enslaved people who fought in the Greek army, receive nothing. Mardonius's personal tent is preserved intact. Pausanias orders a meal prepared using Mardonius's kitchen staff, his supplies, his gold dishware. Then he orders a typical Spartan meal prepared alongside it. He invites the Greek commanders to see both meals side by side. Persian luxury next to Spartan simplicity. The message is carefully crafted. Look at what they brought to conquer us with. Look at what we defeated them with. But there's a darker subtext no one speaks aloud. Look at what we did to take this. News of the victory spreads across Greece that same day. Or so legend claims. The Greek navy wins a decisive victory at Mycari on the coast of Asia Minor, destroying what remains of the Persian fleet and liberating Greek cities under Persian control. Whether the timing is accurate or mythologized, the strategic result is clear. The Persian invasion is over. Greece has survived. But this isn't just survival. The psychological and political landscape has shifted. Athens begins reconstruction, but not as it was. The Athenians fortify their city aggressively, rebuild their navy with the largest fleet Greece has ever seen. The war has taught them that defense isn't enough. Sparta returns to the Peloponnese, but the memory of what happened at Plataea follows. The Spartans had always been respected, feared for their military skill. Now there's something else in how other Greeks regard them. Greek poets write victory odes. Temples are built, monuments erected, but certain details are omitted from the official commemorations. The number of enum. Why dead is celebrated. The speed of the victory is praised. The tactical brilliance is analyzed. What happened inside the fortified camp after the walls fell is mentioned in passing, if at all. Herodotus, writing a generation later, doesn't moralize. He reports this many died, the camp was taken, the wealth was divided. Plutarch, writing centuries after, is slightly more direct. He mentions that some Greeks questioned whether what happened after the battle was necessary, whether the scale of the killing served any military purpose. The Persian survivors who made it back across the Hellespont carried a message to the empire. The Greeks are no longer just defending. When they win, they erase. In pure military terms, Plataea achieved its objective completely. The Persian army in Greece was destroyed. The invasion was ended. The threat was eliminated. But there's a question that echoes through the historical record. Why so few survivors? Ancient battles, even decisive ones, typically saw armies break and run, with the majority surviving the actual combat. Casualties of 20 to 30% were considered catastrophic enough to break an army's will. 50% casualties were virtually unheard of. At Plataea, the casualty rate exceeded 95%. This requires explanation beyond the Greeks' one. What sets Plataea apart isn't the battle itself. It's what happened after the battle ended. The Persian line broke. The Greeks pursued. This is normal warfare. But the pursuit didn't stop when the Persians reached their camp. The siege didn't end with surrender offers or ransom negotiations. The breach of the walls didn't lead to selective targeting of combatants. Every stage was pushed to maximum lethality. This suggests decisions made at command level. Pausanias, the Athenian generals, the allied commanders. They shaped how the victory would be prosecuted, and they chose total elimination. After Plataea, the Greeks turned their attention to Thebes, the Greek city that had allied with Persia. Pausanias demands Thebes surrender the leaders who orchestrated the Persian alliance. Thebes refuses. The Greek army besieges the city for 20 days. Finally, Thebes surrenders the accused leaders. Antagonist escapes, but his family is taken. Timidas and other oligarchs are handed over. Pausanias executes all of them. The treatment of Thebes is instructive because it shows restraint the Greeks were capable of. The city itself is spared. The population isn't massacred. Only the leadership is punished. This restraint was present at Plataea too. The Greeks could have shown it. They chose not to. The Dian League forms in the years after Plataea, an alliance of Greek cities led by Athens, ostensibly for mutual defense against Persia. Within a generation, it transforms into the Athenian Empire. Cities that try to leave the League are besieged, conquered, their populations sometimes enslaved or killed. Sparta, watching Athens' expansion, grows concerned. The rivalry that leads to the Peloponnesian War, a conflict that will devastate Greece for nearly 30 years, has its roots in the power dynamics established by the Persian Wars. The lesson of Plataea echoes through both. Victory isn't just about winning. It's about what you're willing to do with that victory. Modern accounts of Plataea focus on the tactics, the strategy, the heroism. This isn't wrong. Those elements existed, but they also tend to skip from the Greeks won the battle to the Greek. The Greek cities were liberated without dwelling on the intermediate steps, the fortified camp, the breach, the hours that followed. This isn't because ancient sources are unclear. Herodotus provides the numbers. Other sources corroborate. It's because we don't have comfortable categories for what Plataea represents. It's not a battle that went wrong. The EKs executed their plan successfully. It's not a war crime in the modern sense. Ancient warfare had different conventions. It's something in between, a conscious choice to use victory as a tool of annihilation. When the Greeks erect a victory monument at Plataea, the inscription lists the participating cities, honors the dead, celebrates the victory. It doesn't mention the 100,000 Persians who died. It doesn't need to. Everyone who sees the monument knows. Every Greek city that contributed forces knows what their soldiers did that day. Every Persian who hears the story knows what happened when the walls fell. The monument is both a celebration and a warning. This is what happens when you invade Greece. This is what happens when you burn Athens. This is what happens when you kill 300 Spartans at Thermopylae and think you've won. You haven't won. You've only guaranteed what comes next. The title of this script asks, how 10,000 Spartans avenged the 300. The answer is complicated. They didn't just defeat the Persian army, they erased it. They didn't just win a battle. They eliminated an invasion force so completely that Persia never attempted a major invasion of mainland Greece again. They didn't just avenge them. They made sure that anyone who heard the story would understand the price of killing Spartans is annihilation. But vengeance in the ancient world wasn't clean or simple. It wasn't a Hollywood ending where good triumphs and everyone goes home satisfied. Plataea left questions that even the victors couldn't fully answer. When does defense become elimination? When does necessary force become systematic slaughter? When does vengeance become something that troubles even those who execute it? The Greeks won at Plataea. They secured their freedom, ended the invasion, and created a foundation for what would become one of history's most influential civilizations. But so did something that day in 479 BC that would echo through their own later histories. They learned what they were capable of when survival was no longer the only question. Thermopylae is remembered because it's comprehensible. Noble sacrifice, heroic resistance, glory and defeat.